The 26th of June as International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. The day is aimed at sensitizing the public about substance abuse and its devastating impact on individuals, on families, on communities, and to also mobilize the communities and stakeholders in combating substance abuse. To talk more about what is being done to combat drug dependency, we are joined in the studio by Dereleen James from the Sharing Without Shame anti-drug organisation, and Jerome Lottering, who is a facilitator of the Sharing Without Shame support group. It's good to have both of you. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Dereleen, it's nice to see you. I mean, the last time we spoke, we were in Alexandra. It was ahead of the elections, and we were trying to get more and more support when it came to the province of Gauteng in particular to fight the scourge against drugs. What's happening? Are we gaining momentum?
I would say we're gaining momentum, but I think a lot more education needs to be going out there. People need to get educated about the disease and not just think that people choose to become addicts. You know, I always say that who chooses to sleep outside on the streets? Yeah. You know, it is a disease, and we need to start recognizing that. With it being International Drug Day, I see that there's very few people that actually knows about this day. There's no yellow ribbons like we're wearing today.
Yeah,
you know, you'll find with AIDS Day and with Cancer Day, you see the red ribbon all over, you see the pink ribbon all over, but there's no campaigning, there's not enough campaigning, and there's not enough awareness being raised.
Yeah, and that's where you both come into the equation, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise awareness and talk about the devastation that it causes to your lives. Now, Jerome, you're a recovering drug addict.
Yes.
You've been clean for two and a half years now.
Yes, 2 years and 8 months.
What was your life like while you were a drug addict?
My life was a complete shambles. You know, there was no future. There was no future for me. You know what? Sorry about this.
No,
I'm just a bit
please,
nervous.
we understand.
No, my life was hell, basically.
Yeah.
My life was hell. I was creating problems for my family. I was creating problems at work. You know, there was no future for me in terms of me being a productive member of society. I got involved in crime. I got involved in all sorts of bad things. Yeah, and I had run-ins with the law. My kids were suffering, my family was suffering, and there was no hope for me, basically. Yeah, it got to the point where I was basically living on the street, and luckily, a good Samaritan came along and saved my life.
Brilliant. And it was difficult. I mean,
was
there's no two
definitely
ways about it.
yes.
But I mean, now when you look back at that, going cold, because that's what you have to do, I imagine, just to get off of it. And it was a difficult time to get off of it.
Yes, definitely it was.
But it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely, it is worth it.
But what in your head, what makes a drug addict want to stop? Because sometimes you get so far down the line where you just say, well, you know, it's easier to just keep taking the drugs. Why did you stop? What happened?
Well, for me, I was basically forced to stop. If I could have used drugs successfully, I probably would have carried on. But my family made it difficult for me to carry on using.
Okay.
You know, so I had no other option. Like I said earlier, I found myself on the street. I found myself alone, and I had no other option but to stop. So that's the proverbial rock bottom, basically.
Yeah.
You know, if my family continued enabling my addiction by allowing me to carry on using and making it easy for me to use, I probably would still be using today.
Yeah. So it's loved ones, it's friends, it's people that are close to you in your life that need to push you and make your life hell.
Yeah, they need
and
to
make it worse, even though it hurts us. Because, I mean, you did this to your son. I mean, this is your son. It's the boy you gave birth to, this child whose nappies you changed, and you have to be hard and almost kick them out the house. How's it going with him now?
He's not doing too well, Jan.
Still?
Yeah, he's not doing, and it's actually very hard for me to speak about it, because speaking about it sometimes, as much as what I want to raise awareness about this, you know, I must remember that I go back home, you know, he feels that, you know, mummy's sort of putting me to shame, embarrassing me in front of everyone, speaking about me over and over to the world. But it's not that. It's just that I'm crying out that I'm so desperate for help, not only for him, but for our community, for so many addicts that I see that actually want help. And the standard of help in South Africa is not where it's supposed to be at.
Yeah.
You know, I battled for a long time, and it took me a long time to realize what addiction is actually all about. It attaches itself to the central nervous system. You know, I always say that addiction is the only disease that you get shouted at for having, that you get locked up for having, that doctors tell you find help somewhere else, that social workers tell you get him locked up. You know, they don't understand the disease. They still treat it as a generic someone who's just naughty. So it's taken me a while to realize that, you know what, we need to have more treatment centers in South Africa. We need to have social workers who actually specialize in addiction, who actually understands where someone is at in the addiction when they come forward. We cannot wait for 2 weeks on end or 30 days before someone gets admitted into a treatment center. At our hospitals, they're still being turned away. Nurses are still saying, oh, you again, wasting your mother's medical aid. There's no compassion for the addicts out there. There's no support for families, because the families actually suffer so much. It's just a mess.
Yeah. It's amazing that when we spoke in April, these were the exact things we were talking about. Doesn't seem like much has changed since then. I just want to bring up the story of what we're covering in the news. It's a massive story. In fact, perhaps one of the biggest drug busts in our history, and it is the biggest drug bust in South Africa's history. 3 billion rand worth of heroin found in a house in Durban, in Kloof, right under our noses. I mean, Kloof is it's a good area. And I mean, when you look at these visuals, these are the drugs that land up you use. I'm not saying, Jerome, you used heroin, but I mean, this is where it all comes from. And this is right next door to us. I mean, obviously, we need to be more vigilant. We need to get involved as citizens.
Yes.
We have to get involved, and I always encourage parents, and I'm encouraging South African citizens today to actually test their kids. Don't wait for kids to actually fall into the trap of addiction. You know, if mommy and daddy does random testing, at least you'll know, and our kids will know, you know what, I get tested every now and again, so I cannot even try this. Heroin is actually one of the worst drugs to get off. People don't understand that you cannot just go cold turkey on heroin and it's like Nyaupe, where people just expect you to stop. You cannot just stop. You might die. There's cramps, there's body pains, there's sickness. So even if people want to stop, every day I've had so many addicts saying that, you know what, today's my last day, I'm definitely stopping. But when the cramps come, when the sickness comes, it's right back to getting your next addict.
Yeah. At least we've seen Nyaupe becoming an illegal substance. Jerome, let me leave that last word, because I know you're dying to say something.
Yeah, can I just add on to what Dereleen was saying? You know, heroin is actually one of the main ingredients in Nyaupe.
Yeah.
So if an addict becomes addicted to Nyaupe, they're addicted to heroin. And to get off heroin, you know, you need to go cold turkey, because there is a physical addiction. Not so much a psychological addiction, but there's a physical addiction as well. So it's extremely difficult for Nyaupe users to get off Nyaupe. I just wanted to add something. You know, I just wanted to say there's a number of factors that can lead to addiction. For example, experimentation, peer pressure, low self-esteem, broken families, and underlying personal issues. And what Dereleen was saying earlier with regard to putting mandatory testing for young people in place is, especially when it comes to peer pressure, to give the power back to our youngsters, to our teens, to say, you know what, I'm being tested at home.
Yeah.
You know, if I give in to this peer pressure, or if I experiment, you know, my parents are going to find out immediately that I've been using drugs.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's a powerful tool that we can use here in South Africa in terms of eliminating the peer pressure issue and experimentation issue. Because no one chooses to become a drug addict. When we are younger, we try, we experiment, and unfortunately, eventually it ends up that you become addicted.
No one ever beats drugs. Drugs beat you every single time.
Yes.
Let's leave it there. I know we could spend the whole show talking about it. Dereleen James, thank you very much. Now, Dereleen is the chairperson of Sharing Without Shame anti-drug organisation, and also Jerome Lottering. He's a facilitator. He's an ex-drug addict and has been clean now for 2.5 years. He's a facilitator in the support group as well. Thank you, both of you, for doing what you're doing. It really is. It really is encouraging to see that so many people are working to make this a better country in terms of no drug abuse. All right.